Hi there, I am Wild Humphrey and they call me the Fact Master because I'll tell you all those things you never knew you didn't know. I'm faster than Google and everything I tell you is from up here, and that is a fact. Now if you consider American history, it seems to me that an awful lot has happened in a relatively short amount of time, and not all of it good. There's been many leaders throughout that country, and one in particular I'm going to tell you about was born on the 5th of December 1839, and he grew up to become known as General George Armstrong Custer. And at an early age, Custer realised he had a knack for fighting, so he joined the army. And whenever Custer went into battle, him and his men would win the day. He was so good, so astute, and so intelligent on the battlefield. Everybody seemed trusted him, and those in higher places certainly admired him, and he rose through the ranks fairly rapidly. Custer even fought in the American Civil War, where he was on the side of the Union. And during that, he fought many battles, won them all, and enjoyed a pretty good time. He even fought at Gettysburg, which took place on the 1st of July, 1863. But General George Armstrong Custer is not remembered for any of those days. He ain't remembered for the Civil War or Gettysburg or anything else. In fact, many people wouldn't even know he was there, because Custer is remembered for the Battle of Little Bighorn. And the Battle of Little Bighorn took place on the 25th of June, 1876. The American Civil War finished 1865, and attentions were turned towards American Indians. And this has been a long-standing problem between the two. They simply hated each other. The Indians, as far as the American cavalry were concerned and the government were concerned, were in the way, and they wanted rid of them. But this was their homeland and they weren't going to give things up easily. Custer was sent to sort them out at Little Bighorn, and he took with him the 7th Cavalry. He was at command of all his soldiers who would do whatever he said. Now, he had a guide on the way, an Indian guide, who had a bad feeling about Little Bighorn. And he said to Custer, "At the end of this day, the road we will take home will not be a road that we know." Which meant it wasn't going to be a good day at all. Well, Custer, he'd never lost a battle, so he wasn't going to have any of that. The guide was an Indian named Half Yellow Face. I thought, well, I'm not going to listen to you. You've got half a yellow face. And literally half yellow face. That's what he had. He painted half his face yellow. But the Indians, they had some good names. Nonetheless, back to the battle. Custer marches men forward, charging to Little Bighorn by the river, set up, ready for the Indians. What he'd done, he'd seriously overestimated his own ability and strength and power, and seriously underestimated the ability and strength and power of the enemy. Because the enemy, these weren't just Indians, no. These were battle-hardened warriors who had a deep hatred for the American cavalry for all they'd done to their people. They were led by Chief Sitting Bull himself, Crazy Horse, and Two Moon. And these guys, these leaders of these warriors, there's nothing was going to stop them. Sitting Bull actually had a vision long before Custer arrived, and he said to Crazy Horse and Two Moon, "Go to Bighorn. You will win the day. I have seen it." And that's exactly what happened. The Indians swarmed all over Custer and his cavalry. They were wiped out. There was something like 1,500 of these Indian warriors, led by real leaders who would not give in. Custer, his men, and him were all slaughtered. The lot of them at the Battle of Little Bighorn on the 25th of June 1876. Famously also known as Custer's Last Stand. The Indians wouldn't stop until they were done everything they wanted to do. And once the soldiers, the cavalry and Custer had been killed at Little Bighorn, things only got worse, because the Indians then set about mutilating their bodies. They wanted to kill their soul, not just them. So they did all manner of things. Now Custer, dead on the battlefield, along with his two brothers, his nephew and his brother-in-law, who'd all supported him. And of course, over 260 of his men. This was the day for the Indians, and they'd waited a long time for this. Of course, afterwards, all hell broke loose. All there would ever be for years to come with more bloodshed. The American authorities demanded answers. Why had this happened? Well, there were a number of reasons why it happened. Apart from the numbers and the bad organisation, Custer had gone in believing he was invincible. He's overestimated everything about him and his cavalry, and seriously underestimated the power, determination of the Indians. The Battle of Little Bighorn is often thought of as a victory for Custer, but it wasn't. It's completely the opposite. It's such a famous battle. Many people think Custer must have won on his last stand. He didn't. He was slaughtered. The Indians won the day at the Battle of Little Bighorn, which they called also the Battle of Greasy Grass. But the Indians, when you think about them, their names, the reason that they have these names is they say when an Indian woman gives birth to a child and they recover from it, the first thing they see is what the name that the child is then given. Hence you get Sitting Bull, Two Moons, Crazy Horse, and there are thousands of others. But that's what they do. All the names are good, but aside that, only a bloody end waited for General George Custer. He'd ignored the advice from those around him. He'd gone into battle not ready, overwhelmed with the force of the Indians, and the Battle of Little Bighorn went to the North Cheyenne, Lakota Indians and more. And Custer, he died that day, and that is a fact. Listen, I'm Wild Humphrey. Thank you very much for watching this video and tuning in. Please, listen, you gotta subscribe to my channel, because I'll be back with much more for you, and that is a fact. In the meantime, take it easy, and I will see you soon.